everything on. All right. Good evening, everyone. It's lovely to see all of you, all of my colleagues here in the same room again. We're distanced and masked. It is August the 25th. Wow, hard to believe. And we are back again in the Aquilina Howell Center for our regularly scheduled business meeting. Ms. Bowen, are you prepared to read the changes and additions? I'm sorry, we have to have the pledge because we're all in the same room. I forget that we can stand up together. Mr. Superintendent?
Yes, Madam Chair. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
All right, now Ms. Bowen.
Well, Madam Chair, there are no changes and additions today.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow. Okay.
All righty then.
Change.
Miracles never cease. That's good. So that takes us to the Superintendent Spotlight. Mr. Superintendent, the Florida Center for Reading and Research.
Madam Chair, as you well know, over the last several years, ever since Dr. Nicole Patton-Terry came to Tallahassee, she is completely engaged with Leon County school system in many different levels, working with Ms. Gregory and the folks in academic services on enhancing reading for our youngest of students. And then also most recently, she sponsored a reading program at a number of our Title I schools. And I saw Dr. Patton-Terry in the parking lot the other day, and she was personally delivering backpacks full of books for children. And they were garnet and gold backpacks, imagine that. But I'm just so thankful and appreciative of our relationship with her and her team, and them being right here in our backyard makes it certainly advantageous for us to develop that partnership. So this time I'd like for Dr. Patton-Terry to come forward and tell a little bit about the program and offer thank you. Yes, you may applaud, right?
These are the coveted book bags that have been passed out in your schools, and you'll see what's in them. There are school supplies, as well as what we call the storybook guides, and 5 books. Oh, they're sitting in my hand.
Oh, wonderful.
I'll move that over there. 5 books from Scholastic. And so, briefly, if I can tell you a little bit about what we did, and you'll see some pictures up there scrolling across.
My goodness.
When the pandemic hit, like everyone else, we all decided to try to figure out how we could help. And as you know, we've been focusing very much on how we can help in our own backyard. And what we knew from our partners that we were already working with, we work pretty closely with a few schools already. One of the things we knew very quickly was that they were most concerned with the health and safety of their students and their staff. But we also knew they were very much so concerned about their educational needs of their students. And so we thought, while you guys keep focusing on health and safety as a #1 priority and making it through this school year, let us help by focusing on what we're going to do when the inevitable happens, which is learning loss. And we knew that all students would struggle with not being in school. That was going to happen. And we wanted to do everything that we could to support our teachers and our staff in addressing that need. So when you think about learning loss, the research is pretty clear on a few things. The first is learning loss has a disproportionate, or being out of school is disproportionately different for different kids. There's some groups of students who struggle a little bit more when they're not in school. Those include students with disabilities. Those include students who are growing up in underserved communities and students who are growing up in families and homes that maybe don't have all the resources at home to support learning. So we knew that we wanted to try to work with students who were more likely to struggle the most with learning loss. The other thing we knew we wanted to do was make sure that parents felt comfortable with what it is they were doing with their students at home. Suddenly, myself included, we were all teachers, and we weren't doing homeschooling. We were doing pandemic schooling, right? This was emergency schooling. It wasn't planned for all of us. And so we knew parents were already stressed, and we knew things were already uncomfortable. So what could we do to help make sure that we can increase a little bit of comfort and keep learning fun at home and not stress parents out with one more thing? The third thing we thought about was the digital divide. And we knew that was very clear in our community, as it is in many communities, that many of our students at home didn't have devices that they could use to support learning online. Even if they had devices, everyone in the home wasn't necessarily sure how to use those devices to support learning. And even if they had devices in the home, they might not have the broadband capabilities to keep those devices going. And anybody who's been in a home that's been on a Zoom call with more than one person at the same time, like me today, knows how difficult and even more stressing that can be to get access if the broadband isn't working as well. So we considered all of those factors and tried to really leverage existing materials that we have, partnerships that we have with Scholastic, as well as try to go out and get a little funding to support our schools. And what we came away with was this summer reading program. And so we were able to get funding for 600 students to participate across our Title I schools. All kids who participated and signed up received a book or 5 books at home. And they also received these storybook guides that were designed for each book that gave parents ideas for how they could discuss books with their kids, different targeting the vocabulary that's in the book, different types of questions they might ask, things they can do before the story, during the story, and after the story. And then we also used these existing student center activities that are already there and available at FCRR. Many of them look like games, and so we sent the games home. We also made YouTube videos of these different activities, so parents who were able to could access on YouTube and watch other families doing these games and increase their comfort level with engaging with these types of activities with their children at home. We were able to get families across the country to contribute videos. We even had families of children with disabilities in the videos. These families look like us. And so hopefully that increased parents' comfort with engaging with kids in their way. And we told families that if they participated and if they signed up, we promised them a book bag with school supplies. And so what you saw us doing last week was delivering our book bags with our school supplies. And we had a few extras, so we were able to give out book bags with school supplies across all the Title I schools. So that's what we did. I would be remiss if I didn't say thank you to our partners who provided support at Walmart.org, as well as the Florida Grade Level Reading Campaign, our partners at Scholastic, and all of the faculty, staff, and students at FCRR. This really was a group effort. We all really pulled together this summer to make this a priority and bring this to your families, and we hope to be able to do it again.
That's very exciting. Now, these are some of your team members up here?
Some of them are up there, yes. You see Dr. Lakeisha Johnson there and Dr. Sonia Cabell there. Archer is probably on here as well, too. So FCRR has faculty. Actually, we represent the diversity of FCRR. We have faculty across the College of Education, the Department of Psychology, the College of Social Work, and the School of Communication Sciences and Disorders. So all of us from all of our different disciplines in speech language pathology and social work and special education and reading education and psychology, we all came together to bring our collective expertise to help make this happen.
Well, I can't thank you enough. You have a full-time job, but you are so engaged with us, Dr. Patentary. We're all very, very appreciative of you and your team and all that you do to help support what we're doing in our public schools. And you see its value, but it's greatly appreciated.
Well, thank you so much. We couldn't do it without you, so thank you for letting us join you. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Can you stay?
Working on it.
Well, I just, what a wealth of expertise. I mean it, but not really, but yeah, really. Thank you for your expertise, especially I appreciate how the cross-sectional, all the interaction comes together for the whole child, and that's what we're all about. And with all the immense gratitude that we have, and not at all to look a gift horse in the mouth, but perhaps, I know you can't give out backpacks and actual books to everyone, but are any of those games and videos maybe available online somewhere for?
Yes, ma'am. That is a good point. So there are 2 resources you can direct all of your children and families to. If you go to fcrr.org, you will see a repository there. There's an online repository where you can find student-centered activities for children in pre-K all the way to 5th grade. There are literally hundreds there. These were designed as far back as in early 2000s, so even before I arrived here. And what you will find when you go there, you'll see them. They'll look like this. they were designed for teachers. And so teachers across the county and across the nation use these. What we've done is simply said to families that this looks intimidating because it's a lesson plan. And lesson plans are intimidating. So if you go there as well, you will find 50 videos of different families doing different kinds of activities like this online. We have if you go find our YouTube channel, which you can also link to, you will see these different activities and different families doing them. The other resource I'm going to direct you to is called Maya's Book Nook. So Maya's Book Nook, and I got to give a shout out to Dr. Lakeisha Johnson there. Lakeisha's daughter's name is Maya. She's 5. She's starting kindergarten this year. Right. And one of her passions is making sure that children have diverse children's literature in the home and parents know where to find it. So she reviews different books online, and then she creates storybook guides online. So you will find there an Amazon store that has hundreds of books in them with storybook guides attached to them, and she puts them out regularly. So they might not have these, but they do have others available to them online, and we can certainly produce more of them too.
That's beautiful.
And I will also say because we do know that you have a growing population of English language learners, and so what we're doing now is trying to figure out how we can extend this work to provide translation of materials to your English learners as well. So we're working on that too.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Jones.
I just want to thank Dr. Nicole Patton-Terry. Their interdisciplinary response to meet the needs of our students in our public schools has just been extraordinary, and I know very impactful. I've also had the great pleasure of hearing her lecture, and not in a classroom setting, but in our community, making business persons and other stakeholders in our community aware of the importance of reading and how their investment in reading programs has long-term efforts. She is an expert. She and her team are experts also in the importance of early education. And she continues to take that narrative across our community. So thank you for being a good community trustee and a community treasurer. And thank you again for your great work on behalf of our children.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yes, thanks.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here, too. All right. I don't see any recognitions.
But we have a second spotlight, Madam Chair.
Sorry.
Yes, we have lots of spotlight tonight. We're making up for lost time. So as you well know, now Leon County Schools has had an amazing partnership and relationship with the United Way of the Big Bend. It's one of our major fundraisers that we do with our employees every year. Schools are in competition with each other to try to encourage our employees to donate to the United Way of the Big Bend that supports so many of our local nonprofit organizations. And not only that, we have the Reading Pals and the Math Pals and the Smiles program, all that they do, the Big Bend of the United Way, give back to help us and our children each and every year. And so tonight we are honored to have their director, CEO, Bernice Cox, and Molly Lord is joining her, who is the person that we work with, Dr. Gale works with at the school level to work with our employees about donating each and every year. And it seems like I'm looking at some type of award we may have won. So Bernice, if you're out there, do you mind jumping in at this point? You or Molly?
I think we see Molly on the screen. Molly, you might be muted.
Hello, this is Bernice.
Hey, Bernice. Welcome. Thanks for being here.
Hi there. I don't know where I've got the video on as well. There we go. Hi, everyone.
There she is.
There you go. Hello. Good evening, Superintendent Hannah. I want to thank you all for Leon County Schools for your generous campaign, your workforce campaign. Molly Lord, our research development vice president, as you alluded to earlier, is on with us. You have a Cornerstone Award, and I think that you may already have that, or at least a photo of that with you.
No, it's right here. It's right here on dais.
And that is the Cornerstone Award is for those campaigns that are between $100,000 and $249,999. We want to thank you. You're also in our top 5. All of this for 2019. Thank you so much for the generous contributions, for your partnership, you mentioned earlier, we are partnering with Leon County Schools and Reading Pals, Math Pals, Smile United, and the 21st Century Grant and after school and some of the after school programs. We are so grateful for your partnership and just thank you. As you know, the needs in our community are going to be greater than ever with the impacts of COVID-19. We just kicked off our annual campaign today. Our first virtual campaign kickoff is today at noon. And so we're getting ready to start our next campaign, but can't say enough thanks to you and your team and all the employees for donating and giving to our United Way of the Big Bend so that we can help those, our neighbors in need. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bernice. And I know, Molly, we had our initial meeting with the school-based folks that are going to be conducting the drives on our campuses. Last year, I believe we donated just over $115,000 to the United Way of the Big Bend. So we'll see if we can top that goal again this year. But thank you guys for all that you do to give back to support thousands of children in our district. It's a wonderful partnership we've had for many years and obviously want to continue it. So thank you for this recognition.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being with us. And this is the employee campaign where our folks give from their own paychecks to donate toward the United Way. So I think that shouldn't go without mentioning that the people who are employed by Leon County Schools, teachers, bus drivers, cafeteria service workers, administrators, everyone is asked to contribute to give back even more than they already do. So I think that is noteworthy.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Jones?
I'm also would like to acknowledge the United Way for the extraordinary work that they do in our Title I schools, particularly with our Reading Pals program. I know that it has had enormous impact. Our principals and our faculty and students remain grateful for their continuing investment. I remember when the United Way reimagined itself and set its cornerstone priorities, particular areas of concern, and among them was an investment in early learning that continues to endure. And so please know that I am grateful for the great work that United Way does on behalf of our children. Thank you, Dr. Cox.
Thank you very much.
All right, we're ready to move along. So no recognitions to date, no district advisory council or other councils tonight. That takes us to our very dear topic.
Our weekly report.
Report on the reopening of Leon County Schools update.
We are getting closer and closer. Today is Tuesday. We're less than a week out now until we welcome our students back to their classrooms, whether that be physically in their classroom or us taking the classroom to them at home. It's very exciting. Teachers have begun their second week of pre-planning. We also welcome back on Monday our support staff, our bus drivers, our food service workers, our paraprofessionals, and countless others that are working with our administrators and our teachers, preparing for the reopening of our schools. We received some exciting news today. Had a wonderful call with the folks at the local Department of Health. We said for months now that one thing that would really cripple us that is different about this virus is the protocols and the quarantining that's been laid out. We have been following, as you know, CDC guidelines from the very beginning. We always said that we will work with our local Department of Health in following and implementing those CDC guidelines, but we also know those guidelines have changed over the last 6 months, starting with masks. Masks seemed not to have much importance or much value, and now look at us, Matt. They are the end all and the be all to eliminate the spread of this virus. So along with that, we received some new guidance today from the CDC in conjunction with the Department of Health. So I'm going to start right there and ask Dr. Cox to jump in, introduce his guests, and let's talk a little bit about some of the changes for some of the really exciting changes moving forward for those of us in education.
Great. Thanks, Mr. Superintendent. Hey, before we, and Coco McClellan, who works for the Department of Health, and she is our liaison. That's who Terry Anderson and I meet with on a daily basis. and have been for basically about since April the 1st, probably. Before I do that, I want to sing praises of a couple of people. We have our accountant in health service, and she handles our wellness budget and this large Medicaid budget that pays for our health services is Mary Ann Foy. When we found out about the H600 mask and that it takes 20 minutes to 25 minutes to manufacture her mask, I gave her that task of working with the volunteers and all the different agencies and groups that were already out there, but kind of bringing them together and producing 5,000 of these for our district. And we are just a little bit short of 5,000 today. It was just, I can't say enough about her and her taking that on and making that happen. And we sung the praises of several of the different groups out there. But I do want to sing her praises. I also want to give a big shout out to Rod McQueen and June Kale, June, our purchasing agent. We have delivered, we're inundated with PPE stuff, and that's a good thing. We have delivered everything out there to the schools, the H600 masks, the several $100,000 of cloth masks, the gowns that we got for Everhard and the ESE teachers. Everybody now has a high quality face shield to go with the mask, regardless of the mask that they use. We got clear masks for all of our kindergarten, first and second grade teachers, almost 500. Clear mask for all of our speech pathologists and ESE teachers, and of course all of our hygiene kits, all the thermometers, all the clean, disinfectant. And so Rod and June Kale were just such a big part of that. So we're on the eve of school starting back. I really don't know what else we could have done. The materials out there. Let me move on now. So the board had asked me a couple of meetings back that if I can bring some data, some numbers to them, just general numbers about our district employees and where we sit in regards to COVID. And I'm going to do that now, and then I'm going to have Coco come on, and she's going to give you some data for this part of the state, Leon County as a whole. And then she's going to share something with you that happened this week that came down through CDC and came down to the local Department of Health and then to us. Just as a reminder, the local Department of Health has maintained arm in arm with CDC and their guidelines, and we have stayed arm in arm with the local Department of Health. I think that's the way to go with their help and guidance. Okay, what about our employees? This is since August 1st. 81 exposure/tested. So just remember that in our contact tracing, the Department of Health, who does that, reaches out to them, and not everybody, not all those 81 get tested. Some of them simply finish out their quarantine. By the time they have reached out, they only have a handful of days left. So there's an 81 total exposures are tested that were Leon County School Board employees during this month. We had 15 positive, so 15 tested positive. 65 have been cleared and returned. And just a reminder about the clearance, it can happen in two ways. One is that the Center for the Leon County Department of Health will offer a letter of clearance, and they've been doing that. Or the doctor can clear them. Doctors can send us a note as well. 81 total exposures/tested, 15 positive tests, 65 have been cleared. And we have currently 16 that are still under some kind of a quarantine. So that's our local data. That's our school system data. And Coco, if you want to go in what we look like in general across the Big Bend area.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Cox. So the report that I have here is coming off of the dashboard, the Department of Health dashboard. It's the COVID-19 report, if anyone wants to reference it. It's quite long, but this is as of today, 8/25. Our 7-day rolling average for positivity, percentage of positivity, has been 6.05% for the past 2 weeks. Our last week was week 33 was 5.39, and week 34 is 6.71. So they look at the 2 weeks combined, and that's an average positivity rate of 6.05% for Leon County. So one of the things that we look at with this is what has happened in the last week. What has changed? Well, if you guys have driven down Tennessee Street, you know the students are back in town. So what we're seeing here with our Leon cases, the 18 to 24 age group is the highest percentage in Leon County, with a 30% of all of the cases falling in that 18 to 24 age group. The next highest is going to be the 25 to 34-year-old age group with 19.1%. And then again, it goes on up, and there's more information in there, but just kind of letting us know, we like to look to see where is our highest percentage. And right now it's that 18 to 24-year-old age group. So that's kind of where we are with our local average of what we're looking for. Couple of different things that have happened in the last week. So the Department of Homeland Security has come out with some new guidance that the CDC has then implemented from there. So we wanted to share that with you all. This came out on 8/18, so last week. Underneath the Department of Homeland Security, school employees and teachers are now considered critical infrastructure workers, and they fall under the same kinds of advisories as other workers who have borne this label, basically doctors, law enforcement, different essential workers. Now, this is not new information. This has been going on, the essential workers, and this is everybody from, again, law enforcement, doctors, businesses, finance, banks, grocery stores, all of that has all gone underneath that. The new information here is that this has come in to include educators and education from that particular part. So our school employees and teachers are now following underneath that. So what does this mean? It means our guidance is going to change a little bit. Basically, essential workers can continue to work if they have been exposed to a confirmed case, provided they remain asymptomatic. And there are some different things that the CDC has listed out here. Now, this has been going on with all these essential workers that have been listed in the past. Again, as of the 18th, our education came into it. But this is what hospitals, long-term care facilities, all these other places, public works, financial agencies have all been working through. So basically, it says that if a worker has been exposed to COVID-19, has been in close contact, been exposed, as long as they are asymptomatic, they can come to work following certain guidelines. And from what I understand, these guidelines are in place. Again, we can list them out, and then I'll let Dr. Cox explain what the district has done. But I'm quoting from the CDC guidelines here. Underneath the new guidelines, the essential workers who have been exposed to COVID-19 but remain asymptomatic may continue to work if the following practices are followed. Pre-screens, including employees are measuring temperature and assessing symptoms prior to starting work. Regular monitoring throughout the workday. Self-monitoring for any changes in their symptoms. Wearing a mask. They should wear a mask at all times for the 14 days after their last exposure. Social distancing. Maintaining 6 feet from others and practicing social distance. And of course, disinfecting and cleaning workspaces. The CDC also emphasizes that any employee who becomes sick during the workday should be sent home immediately, and that all surfaces in their workplace should be cleaned and disinfected. So, again, this is falling under what's coming up from CDC under the CISA, which is the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. Dr. Cox, I'll send it back to you to explain what the protocols are in place with the school district.
Okay. Let me get my video back up here. Okay, and so there's a 22-page document that was put out by Homeland Security, and like Coco said, they've added education under that. This is page 10 of the document of the people that that this organization considers critical to the operations of our country. I am going to read this. Normally, I don't have to read stuff to you. But I do need to read this because this is all new. We just got this, Friday, and we have been scrambling around adjusting to it. But let me just read some of this to you. Workers who support the education of preschool, K-12, college, universities, and career technical education, and adult education students, including professors, teachers' aides, special education, special needs teachers, ESOL teachers, para-educators, apprenticeship supervisors and specialists. Now, this is who is included in this critical infrastructure workers. Workers who provide services necessary to support education students, including but not limited to administrators, administrative staff, media specialists, librarians, guidance counselors, school psychologists, and other mental health professions, school nurses and other health professions, and school safety personnel, John's group. Workers who support the transportation operation of needs of schools, including bus drivers, crossing guards, cafeteria workers, cleaning and maintenance workers, bus depot and maintenance workers, and those that deliver food and supplies to school facilities. Almost done. Workers who support the administration of school systems, including school superintendents and their management and operational staff, and educators and operational staff facilitating and supporting distance learning. So it's a very long list. It's a comprehensive list. And then they go into all the other first responders, health, fire, all the stuff that people that Coco mentioned. Pretty comprehensive list. So with this direction, CDC sent out exactly critical infrastructure workers and that protocol, and Coco just went over that with you. So this is a change, and we're getting used to these changes. Love it right here on the eve of us opening the campus. So I will be sending out to our employees. Now, I sent something out about what happens if they get sick or exposed, I guess it's been about a week and a half ago, to District All. I'm now going to change that, send this back out. I met with all the principals yesterday, and we talked about it there. But it basically reads like this. It's a one-pager, and like I said, I'll send that to everybody. Based on the latest CDC guidance, employees exposed to COVID-19 continue working unless they have symptoms or test positive. If you are sick or test positive for COVID-19, stop. Do not go to work. And I got that in big red letters. Contact your supervisor. Now, we've been doing that. And it's been working well. Our little relationship with Coco and her group, our daily meetings, staying up on top of the list, that's going well. We had all summer to practice on it. So if you're sick or tested positive for COVID-19, stop. Do not go to work. Contact your supervisor. They know to contact my office. Second step, if you are ill and do not get tested for COVID-19, you may return to work when symptoms subside and you're 72 hours fever-free. Remember, it used to be 24, but we, as recommended, we went to the 72 hours. So no, if they're sick, do not come to work. If they go to the doctor, which they should, and the doctor has them tested and they're positive, they do not come to work. They contact their supervisor, and then their supervisor contacts us, and that's worked well. If you test positive for COVID-19, tell your supervisor and await contact from the health department as when you can return. So on a positive test, they will be contacted from Coco's group. All the RNs, we've got about 8 or 9 of them out there that will be working in our school systems. And this is the group that's been doing contact tracing all since we've been shut down for the city, this area. And they'll tell them what to do. If you have had potential, and this is the last bullet, if you have had potential exposure to COVID-19 by being closer than 6 feet, more than 15 minutes, possibly tested negative for more than 15 minutes, or within the same household, so somebody in the household has it, you will need to wear a mask the entire time you're at work for the next 14 days. So right now, we know that we're requiring masks in the transition areas and in the bus and wherever 6 feet cannot be maintained. And with 52% of our students in Digital Academy, I've had teachers send me, like a Leon teacher just sent me how many is in his science classes. And he's at 6, 10, 11, and 13 in his classes. And he's explained to me how he's going to do labs and keep everybody safe. For the 105-minute class, he can divide them up. So they're working it out at the schools. But if they're potentially exposed and they exposed to somebody within the 6 feet, 15 minutes, and they are not sick, they can still come to work, but they will need to leave their mask on for 14 days. Whereas the ones that get the social distancing, we can relax on the mask. That's not changed. We've been saying that for quite some time. The only difference is now is the potential exposed person they can come to work if they're not sick. They need to leave their mask on the whole time under roof. Coco, I think I covered it pretty good. Is any other part of that you can think of from the health department side?
The only thing I was going to say is we are in the midst of hiring an education team. I'm the liaison for K through 12 for the Leon County Health Department, and we are hiring a lot more. So we're in the midst of that right now. So we'll have a lot more investigators to reach out to people as well to give more information. So it's more than just the nurses. We're hiring a whole team right now.
Madam Chair,
Strickland.
if I might, I think I'm sure we have more information to discuss tonight, but I think we need to stop for a minute and talk about what was just thrown out there. Before we go on, I think this might be the most of all the controversial issues that we have going on today and this week. I think this might be the biggest one. And I understand. I think we all read the articles before they were sent to us. We all, are aware of what's going on, and we keep ourselves apprised of the news and what that means for our education workers to be considered essential, which I don't think there's a single one of us in here who would say they're not essential, because they're absolutely essential. But I hear a lot of the words can and may. So these workers that now have been exposed either have a family member in the house with it, have a dear friend who came down with it. They know they were at dinner with the night before. They know that that's a potential. I think that's something this board needs to discuss before we put it out there, that these workers must come back to work, even though we know they've been exposed to somebody. I personally feel that we should not be asking our workers to go back if we know they've been exposed to somebody. That is a positive. Now, can we put some other guidelines around that they need to go get tested? Possibly, I don't know if our Leon County Schools testing with TMH has given us a 24-hour response time. Can we require them to have a test that is negative before they go back into the classroom? But I think there's some wiggle room there, and I think that we need to exercise that wiggle room just a little bit.
Madam Chair, I'm on the same page as Ms. Strickland about this. I do understand that it's very difficult to run a school, and if a whole custodial team goes out, as the superintendent mentioned to me before the meeting, or if, as happened in Wakulla County, the kid gets positive and the whole class goes home, the teacher goes home, it's very, very disruptive. And so I understand the desire in some ways to try to make that lessen, just from a management point of view. But we've been operating for every discussion we've had has been, here are the rules, everybody goes home, they get quarantined, they can still teach from home if they're not sick, and so this is a big change. And like you, I would like to discuss this as well. We were told at an earlier meeting that we have an agreement with FSU about testing. I mean, one question I have about that is, if a teacher or employee is exposed, are they going to be able to get rapid testing? I mean, is that one of the things we have in place? The other thing on Dr. Cox's list is it said, they wear a mask, they get their temperature taken, they remain 6 feet away from everybody. Is that really possible in a classroom? I question that. So I have some concerns about this as well. Just want to express those.
Madam Chair,
I felt you coming. Ms. Bowen.
No. I'm still listening and still feeling the extent to which, I don't know how to say this.
Speaking to the mic, Ms. Bowen.
Oh, okay. There. Am I there?
Yes.
Okay. The extent to which, I don't know how to say this, the exposure is found. I'm thinking, what happened to the 14 days for someone who was exposed, and what happened to the days for those individuals who had, I guess, to be tested when they had been around someone who was exposed? I'm just trying to understand where we are right now versus where we were a few weeks ago in our discussion. I'm not sure that I'm clear on that, and I'm for safety and want that to continue to be what we do and provide. So the mays and mights and shoulds, which is what I think Ms. Strickland was mentioning, I just want to be clear on what Dr. Cox means, what we mean when we say that. So perhaps just another hearing of what he actually said, Ms. Strickland, is what I'd like to hear. Dr. Cox, are you there, sir?
I'm here.
Oh, good.
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
Because what I think Coco said, and I may have misunderstood, so my apologies if I did, but about the 14 days.
Uh-huh.
Are the hospitals not still requiring quarantine after an employee's been, now granted, if you work in the COVID ward, that may be a different thing, but other areas, are they not? I thought they were doing the 14-day quarantine. No?
That was my next question.
Sorry.
That's okay. No, we're discussing this. So.
Unmute, Coco.
Sorry about that. So I can't speak for all other areas, but again, they have, I guess what I can say, because I'm just here to interpret what the CDC and pass that on to you. They can take that choice to do that if they feel there was no one else to perform that duty and that job. That's how it's listed. If there is not enough staff to perform the job and that duty.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Jones.
but with what has just been shared with us by Dr. Cox and Coco from, I'm sorry, Coco, your last name again?
McClellan.
Coco
It's McClellan.
And she is my friend,
Yes.
by the way. Thank you, Ms. McClellan. Does this discussion, does it in any way impact or change what we are currently using as our present policy?
Absolutely, yeah. So starting with whether it's me or whether it's a bus driver or whether it's a teacher or whether it's a member of the custodial staff, this is, like I said, this is a game changer. This is the thing that I said would cripple our school district faster than anything, is having to quarantine even though you're asymptomatic for 14 days. So as an example, if I was out somewhere with you and you tested positive and I was within 6 feet for more than 15 minutes of you, I'm at my house for 2 weeks. This now says that the superintendent of schools doesn't have to be at home for 2 weeks as long as he or she remains asymptomatic and wears a mask while they're at work. So whether it's me or whether it's a teacher or a bus driver or a food service worker, we have been shifting. And if you decide to do something different, okay. But we have been shifting as the CDC shifts with their guidance and working with the health department. They are fine with this. I talked to the city manager. That's their protocol with the city, that if you're asymptomatic, you do not have to quarantine for 14 days. As she mentioned, all these other businesses that have been deemed with essential workers. So if you all want to go against this and say we want to keep quarantining all of our employees if they're exposed, that's your prerogative, certainly.
My only concern, and I understand where we're headed in this, where we could possibly be headed in this conversation. We have used the CDC as our yardstick and measure by which we have set policy. And here now, as the policy has evolved, it would be, I guess my reluctance is to cherry pick what the CDC says that I will comply with. But I'm also concerned, and I know this doesn't help us come to any greater clarity. There's also been a morphing in what has been, for lack of a better word, the integrity of the information that comes to us from the federal government. And that's what gives me pause, because as we describe persons as asymptomatic and not symptomatic, yet we realize that there's still the risk of exposure and the disease operates differently with different people.
Absolutely.
And there are persons who have mortal consequences when others have been asymptomatic or their exposure had not had the same impacts on them physically. And that is why I feel more confident in what we presently have, because it takes into consideration what could be the varying responses of different people as it relates to the disease. And what we're trying to do with our current policy is to alleviate any chance that a person who has been exposed would then be in a position where they might expose others. That's my only concern. And again, I realize that cherry picking that what we choose to comply with is not convenient, but I like where we are. I feel confident where we are. And as this evolves, I'm just reluctant to consider making that change. That's just me personally.
What about what either Ms. Triplett or Ms. Wood said, because we've been talking all along about working with FSU for rapid testing. So what about if an employee says, I've been exposed? Mm-hmm. First of all, how valid is a quick, if you may have been exposed today, would you test positive today or not till 14 days? But then, yes.
So we are out of the rapid testing business right now. We've gotten so many false positives, false negatives. We're out of that test. Coco, would it be beneficial for us to the chair's point, if we did have someone that was in close proximity or to a positive person, to have them test with this, high level test, the PNR test?
PR.
Yeah. Would that be beneficial at all, or it's only beneficial after 14 days or during that 14-day window, or what is the guidance on that?
Well, and this is what we always say, looking at the CDC's guidance, it depends. So a situation, and we are seeing this a lot with the rapid testing, it's a snapshot in time. There are people that...
It's a snapshot in time.
Literally.
A little levity.
That's
people.
every teacher's
Literally.
dream on Monday.
Wow.
Hope not.
Nightmares what I
So, are we at the
I don't know
point
what else we
of
can do.
what can we do at this point? She's back.
information, but it doesn't always work that way. So we rely very heavily on the symptoms and the investigation to make that determination with risk factors. I think we could certainly, again, it would be up to you all if you decide you want to do the PCR testing that has a better chance and it does reflect a better result, a more accurate result. We do recommend that people wait 3 days post-exposure because you have lunch with someone and then you run right out and test. It has to have time to develop in your body. And what the CDC says is that it can take up to 14 days to develop in your body from an exposure. So
I'm gonna put you on the spot, Coco. I'm gonna put you on the spot then. So do you see a middle ground potentially that if we had an employee exposed and we waited the 3 days and then had the PCR test done and it was negative, then we circle back? Is that somewhere in the middle?
I think you could certainly do that. Yeah. And again, symptoms trump everything. When we start seeing symptoms, that's when we want to pull people away and make sure that they are isolated, because that's where we're seeing an outward sign that we have an issue. So that could certainly be, a decision if you all chose to do that. We could look at it case by case and say, do we need to test with PCR? Again, I can't really weigh in on what's better than the other. I can just tell you what the guidance says and what we have noticed through our investigations since March.
Well, let me ask y'all this, y'all. So then we'd be saying, the CDC says they could return immediately, right? Mm-hmm. And we could say, no, we want to forget that. They're going to stay home for 14 days, which is crippling. Mm-hmm. Or we could say, wait the 72 hours. We'll finish up the thing with Mark O'Brien at Florida State. They go get that test that's 99.9% reliable after 72 hours. So they're out 3 days. They get that test, and then if they're cleared, then they can return.
I mean, I would feel better with that. I'm not sure I'm completely on board with it yet, but the I think, let's say I ended up positive. I went home. I felt bad. By the time I got a test, got the results, and notified all you guys, hey, I was positive. We're looking at a good 2 or 3 days. That's gone anyway. So by the time I let Roseanne know that's what's happened, she's been 3 days in the window of us being in close proximity. So I would think her testing at that point would be a little more reliable. She wouldn't be in that, hey, we had lunch and by the way, I'm positive, and then she runs over and gets a test. So I think there's enough time there from what we understand that it's developed. I understand the crippling and the, I get that, but I just, if we can find some kind of middle ground, I think we would be a little.
I would be more comfortable with. I mean, I think that's a reasonable effort. And as we've said over and over again, this thing is constantly changing. We could start there and see, because it's been interesting to me personally how many people I know who've not only tested positive but have had symptoms, and how incredibly different it is for everybody. For some, it is debilitating, but for a lot of people, it's
nothing.
Right. So,
and our entire plumbing department is on quarantine. We don't have a plumber. I mean, and I get it. It's about teachers, but it's not just teachers. It's everyone.
Everyone.
And so now it has a chilling effect on the operation in and of itself.
Well, and plumbing is an essential industry because of hygiene in a school. So if you have a problem with, I guess we could outsource it for a little bit, but to your point.
But I think that one of the things that is critical for any policy or response that we ultimately adopt or implement, it is a civic responsibility and the ethical and the integrity of the persons who are in any way maligned. That there is a reasonable expectation for those of us who work with one another and are with one another some 8 hours a day, that we would evidence the type of civic responsibility that we would inform our employers immediately whenever we suspect any option whereby we have been in any way contaminated, whether it is from spouses or children who have already been determined to have been infected, any other colleagues, any situations that we may have found ourselves in, such that the clock starts then. And that reporting is essential, because otherwise there is no safety. And that's got to be, and I think we've got to make a point of, and I'm not saying that we haven't, but that has to be crystal clear however our policy evolves.
Right. I mean, and sometimes, I've told people my expectations, our employees, my expectations, stay away from each other. Get in your bubble and stay away from each other. And I'm also asking you to do that in your personal life. My stepdaughter's back in town, and we all want to go to Osaka and have dinner. And I'm like, I'm sorry, y'all go to us. I can't go. I'm not going to Osaka to have dinner. I'm just, but those are some of the sacrifices that we are asking, because we realize that our mission is critical. And whether it's a bus driver, we can't get the kids to school, it's game over. I honestly think this is a pretty good middle ground to say, after 72 hours, we shore up the relationship with TMH, have that test that's 99.9% reliable, and if it's negative, return it. And then if it's not, then you go home.
Right. I also think, Mr. Superintendent, Madam Chair, that the expressions that you are bringing now are certainly important to continue as you talk to principals and staff about the honesty. And in keeping with, we are our brother's keeper. That sounds a little, well, I won't say trite, because it isn't trite, but that is the expectation, that we will look out for each other. And I think the 3-day, I'm going to call it the turnaround time, does put us in a position of causing folk, I think, to feel like that we are showing that kind of, I'm going to use compassion, so that our schools can continue to run and operate, and all segments of the system can feel that we've given some thought to this. And so I think it's a good discussion to have. And hopefully the 3-day we can work with that, honestly.
Well, it's not just employees being honest, it's all the students we're going to have.
Well,
You know,
that too.
Students,
That too.
that age group tends to be asymptomatic more. I believe that's right, Ms. McClellan. You can correct me if I'm wrong. So I would like just a little time to gel on this and to consult our entire medical team. Don't we have a whole team? And to really think if this is a valid approach, because we're just making it up on the spot. I would appreciate if we could stick with the policy we have right now and give ourselves a few more days, talk to our you talk to TMH, and that we come back together as a special called board meeting and make a final decision on this. I feel a little odd that we're coming up with something here on the spot and it hasn't been vetted by our medical team. I mean, I understand that the two people who are talking to us are a big part of our medical team, but I would like some other people to weigh in if that's possible. The other thing I wanted to ask is, well, first I should say what y'all think about that as a proposal.
Not making a decision right now is what
But that we
you're
just
saying?
keep our current policy in place
in place.
until we,
Next week. I mean,
till next week.
we're again together next week, but if we go that route, I would say we advise our teachers and our principals that an email is sent out that says, guys, the board has decided to go back to our original plan that was submitted, that if you've come in contact with, so until we have time to research this, and we will get back to you next week on a final decision. We've got to communicate with them, whatever we decide tonight.
Madam Chair, I understand Ms. Striplin's point. I don't know that I think if we can give guidance right now, that if we would either stick with our policy, or if the policy as once vetted is clear, is suitable, but I don't think we can wait till next Tuesday. I think people need to be armed with the policy, whatever our policy direction is, by the first day of school on Monday. And I think that we should
Madam Chair?
instruct the provide guidance to the superintendent relative to this. Stick with our policy, and if it's vetted, that the recommendation that we're making is acceptable by the medical committee, then we could adopt the second one and make a motion to that effect. But I don't know if we want to bring it back to our consideration next Tuesday, which will then be the second day of the start of schools.
Let me just say this. I don't think we have a policy with a capital P from this school board on this topic. We don't have that yet in place.
I thought we voted on a capital P policy.
We've talked about and voted on a lot of different things, but I think on this particular item, it's part of what the superintendent has just as a directive that he believes falls within his purview as superintendent. But it seems like tonight he's listening and saying, well, it sounds like a reasonable compromise. So I don't know. I just want to throw that out there. I don't know that we have where we are from a parliamentary perspective. If we can agree and consensus and he's amenable to that, then we can move on.
So, Madam Chair, if I may, the policy that is currently in rulemaking established a mask requirement and generally talks about when students or employees are symptomatic, they go home. The more specific directive that the superintendent and Dr. Cox have sent out to district staff have been in keeping with CDC guidelines, but that's not explicitly set out in your policy.
Because our policy talks about symptomatic, and we're talking here tonight
broad.
about asymptomatic.
And so the question now is whether you can do this sea change because you now have the CDC guidance that says you may have essential workers, that now includes educational employees, remain in work if they are asymptomatic. I also wanted to make one additional point. We do not have a board meeting next week. This is the last of our weekly board meetings. Our next board meeting is September 8th, and that's also the final budget hearing, okay? So if you were to want a meeting next week, you'd have to schedule a special board meeting.
Which we can do with 2 days' notice, but I'm just listening.
Well, let me just think out loud. We've heard what we've said tonight, right? Right. What will we, I dare not say, still be thinking about? We know what our directives have been and what our conversations around this topic have been like, school starts on the 31st. The only thing that I think I'm certain of is that we need to be consistent in whatever leadership we provide. And I understand that all of this is changing, but the consistency that we provide, I think, would help to make everybody feel a little solid and a little more embraced with what we're doing. And so what would we still be thinking about 10 o'clock tonight that we're not thinking about right now? I'm asking for myself, and I'm asking for us. Folk need to know when we wake up tomorrow morning, this is what we're going to do should we wake up. That's all I'm saying. and I know we all are frustrated and we're tired of this. We already know that we think we've been pushed in front of the bus by certain entities of government, all of that. But to be consistent in what we're doing, if we come back and we change the directive, how disruptive is that going to be to the superintendent and to the teachers and the students, you know? We still are getting calls from parents like, what's happening on the buses? Are they going to still have to wear masks on the buses?
Yes.
You know, yes. So, but I mean, we need to be just consistent in what we're saying. So I ask that because we're in this together and I'm tired too. Okay?
Ms. Wood?
Well, I think what Mr. Jones has said is right, that we need to probably go ahead and land this plane, but I would like it if with, you know, it seems like the guidance that we've given is we feel much more comfortable with at least a 3-day, and if the medical advisors, our team, signs off on that, then I think it sounds like we're good to go rather than coming back, like you said, Ms. Bowen, what are we going to think of at 10 o'clock tonight?
Right.
But I think, at least I don't feel comfortable with just the flat out come back, no symptoms, so.
And this was a good conversation, I think that, you know, the CDC is saying you can go here, and we're saying, well, we don't want to. Let's go here. Let's do the 3 days, the 72 hours. The test is 99% reliable. And then if you're negative, you come back. It gives you peace of mind. It gives others peace of mind. And then you're only out 72 hours as opposed to
14 days.
hours.
14 days.
Right?
14 days.
I mean, I think I'm good with that.
Okay.
I think one thing that's important about this is I know that things are changing very rapidly. So I think Dr. Cox said that we just got this on Friday, did you say? Okay, so Friday, but then even though you knew we were having a meeting Tuesday, you went ahead and sent the email out on Monday. And now we're going to pull it back. And so I'm not trying to be critical about, because I know we're in a hurry. I understand that school starts. We got to make decisions. We got to.
We didn't send out any email.
I hadn't sent it on email.
But it was a call, I believe it was a call made to
We all heard about it.
The schools were advised, and then we were advised.
Yeah.
Well, we were advised we were going to talk about it tonight. We haven't made any official.
That's
plan.
that's not the word I got.
That's not what I heard.
I'm not gonna argue.
We
It's
just
neither
met
here
with
nor there.
we just met with the health department this afternoon.
Getting wrong information.
Okay, and that's fine.
Matter of fact, here's what happened. Ms. Wood brought this, somebody mentioned this, is I met with the principals yesterday. This is only Tuesday. We got this thing Friday. I told them stay exactly the same protocol. And I did explain to them that there is, that this did come down, and that here's CDC's looking at it. But I said for right now, because as a matter of fact, today we've been handling the exact same way. We've handled 3 or 4 cases today. So there's been no official word at all come out on this thing. And I've just got through texting 2 of our high school principals that, after the board meeting, looks like there may be an adjustment, which I like the adjustment, by the way. So no, nothing official has come down at all.
Right. I'll be glad to take my lumps when I deserve them. I don't deserve this one. So.
Okay. Well, everybody's a little on edge, and we all, we're all getting inundated with email and text, and so I apologize if I misstated or misunderstood what I thought had happened, but I think that's why everybody here is kind of like, wait a minute, not so fast.
Well, I feel good about this.
Okay, good.
Great.
Can I ask my follow-up now? So if a teacher is quarantined for 3 days while they wait their test, can they teach from home if they're not feeling symptoms, they're not sick,
Sure.
and still get paid?
Sure.
and then we will have someone watch their
So
students.
here I'm saying sure again without,
Yeah.
I mean,
But you've said that on a number of
yeah, I
occasions.
mean, I don't
just want
see,
that.
that's
I want
what this
that to be-
technology hopefully is going to bring us. And that's what I was planning on for the 14 days, but 14 days is forever.
Yeah.
That's like when I tell our principals, don't suspend a kid for 2 weeks.
Right.
That's a crush. That crushes them. So, yeah.
I think, Madam Chair, and just to follow up, I think, and I'm like you, listen, there's a lot of people running, rumors are everywhere, and parents and teachers and administrators, and then we get in, and so we don't know the whole backstory. But I think to your point is when it is something this gargantuan, this big of a change for our people, we want to have some of that information and be able to kind of discuss it together. And it's really difficult because we can't all just jump on the phone. We can't say, hey, there's new guidance, let's all get on a call at 8, and talk about it. We can't do that.
Right.
But we want to be involved in that process when there's something major sweeping like this that's coming down. So whatever that looks like and however
Just
we can
word.
handle it. Well,
We met with the health people today, said we were going to have them on tonight to talk about it. We just talked about it and we reached a compromise. So I'm missing the disconnect here. Where were you not included in this decision?
anybody want to help me out?
Well, I mean, we just saw what was sent out to the principals, I guess.
What was sent out to the principals?
Didn't we see something? I guess it just. I don't know
I think
if it was.
the wheels were in motion to make this statement to our schools and to our teachers and to our principals. You mean this was, presented to us tonight as this is what we're going to put out tomorrow, and we just want to be included. We just want to be included and
Okay,
and
all right.
That's
I
all.
disagree on this one.
That's
Like I
fine.
said, on the other ones,
Agree. We can agree. I'll take your words. We can agree to disagree, and that's okay. The conversation is good.
but if the decision was made, I would have made the decision and said, this is what we're doing. Anyway, it's okay. We've made a decision. We're moving on. I feel good with it. Y'all feel good with it.
Madam
Dr. Cox
Chair,
feels good with it.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, Mr.
Getting the
Superintendent.
medical.
What I would like to see happen is that this decision be made as soon as humanly possible. I'm certain that you all are, as you prepare to be engaged with our parents with the distribution of laptops and computer desktops, I'm sure they're also going to be getting a whole lot of additional information about what our protocols are relative to reporting and all the rest of the type of information for the start of schools. So I would hope that that committee could be convened to make a determination, because I do believe that distribution of equipment starts is it tomorrow or Thursday? And so the sooner we're able to update whatever decision we have made and the implications that has to the rulings, so that we can make certain that that targeted constituency is armed with the correct information. That's all.
Right. Yeah. But let's understand, nothing's changed for kids. Nothing's changed for students.
Okay.
Just employees.
Just
Students.
employees?
Students who are
No
exposed, high risk exposure. Correct, Coco. They're at home. If they're identified by the nurses at the Department
Okay.
of Health, they will take their device and they'll
Just
go home for
employees.
2 weeks and they'll remote into their classroom. It doesn't change anything for children. Correct,
Point
Ms.
well
McClellan?
made. That's right.
You're muted,
He's
Coco.
muted.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's all right.
That's my understanding.
Right. That it doesn't change anything for our students. Correct.
Yes,
Okay. All right.
that's my understanding.
So can we close this, because I know we're going to move on to the next topic of controversy. Are we going to send out, are we waiting until a few days, just until we get clarification? The 3 days, yes, they think that is workable and doable. And then we're going to send out a statement to our schools by at least before Friday or by Friday, before next week starts. Okay.
Yeah, so she wanted us to talk to those folks in the medical community, just to run it by them. If we already ran it by the Department of Health, and then we'll put something out this week.
Okay.
And to Miss Dr. Cox, do you have anything else to add tonight?
Yes, I just sent everybody the email that they're talking about. I just sent it to all the board members, and so if you want to look at it, I had to tell them something, but that tells them to follow the same protocol. You'll see that. And Mr. Superintendent, I will contact our COVID response team, which has 2 MDs on it, as well as the Department of Health, on the suggestion from the board tonight and redraw up I'll include this in the new protocol and present it to you in the morning, if that's good.
If they agree with it.
Right. Sounds okay. Thank you, Dr. Cox. All right. In addition, to Mr. Jones's point, we are moving thousands of devices across our district. That started today. Moving devices from the district office into schools, transferring property from school to school, and then we'll start distributing those devices to our 15,000 students those that need a device in the digital academy. That will then follow up at the end of the week. We'll then start moving our mobile devices into our schools to then have those for the very first day for all the students that are enrolled in in face-to-face brick and mortar. We feel like we're positioned in a good place. We talked about potentially having to be BYOD. We don't think we're going to have to do that, at least in grades K through 8. Our high schools probably will be for the beginning of the year, BYOD. So when they need a device, they'll bring their own device if they have one, and if not, then we will furnish a device. So there's a lot of logistical moving going on right now, and I know one of your to Miss Roseanne's Miss Wood's point, Miss Wood's point about we drew a line in the sand about people making a decision to enter brick and mortar back on July the 13th, and parents have had from July the 13th for the last 5 weeks to continue to withdraw, and we saw that number go from 70%, 70-30 to now basically 50-50, right? At some point, I had to say, just stop for now, because otherwise the logistics of us already having schedules sent out to kids, to families, us already trying to figure out, well, who gets which device? Is it a DA kid or is it a brick and mortar kid? It was becoming a problem, and one that I could not figure how we were going to overcome unless we told parents and families, stop for now. On Sunday, I can't get calls that we want to stay home on Monday. I need you to come. I need you at least to get your device. And then if things change, then we'll flip you, like we promised, back into a digital academy class. Have I walked that back some? Maybe I have. When I made the comments originally, I thought our 32,500 devices would be here on time, and obviously they aren't. So we're having to juggle between desktops and laptops. Everything we have in our inventory, we are throwing at this situation. But in order to do that, it's taken a yeoman's effort by Justin Williamson and Dale Joyner and Bill Nimmons, building computers, to get that ready. And all I'm asking our parents now is put a pause on things. We heard the numbers here locally. We aren't seeing a major spike locally in the number of positive cases. Let us open the school year, and then we can make adjustments if necessary. So otherwise, if I'm having all this, the comings and goings up until the very first day of school, it's going to be very, very problematic. But I can assure you that if there are individual cases at schools where the parent got called back to work or something happened, that we are making adjustments at the school level. But it was becoming a logistical nightmare for us to try to figure things out, to get just to start on Monday morning if we didn't put a pause at least for a week.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Jones.
Mr. Superintendent, sir, my only concern, and this is a concern that I share with Ms. Woods, as has been explained to us throughout this process, it seemed to me as if it were going to be far more arduous in terms of staffing plans, as was explained to me, because y'all are the subject matter expert, as was explained to me, to go from digital to brick and mortar because of the implications in terms of providing teacher staffing, but that it was always more convenient if someone were going to the digital academy. And my only concern is all of us are continuing a narrative to drive down density in our classrooms. as you can imagine, because there were school districts, and I go back to what Ms. Strickland, when Ms. Strickland made the motion that we would go to August 31st, seems now almost prophetic because it allowed us to see what the implications were for other school districts that opened earlier, which I am certain has driven greater concern by parents than what they've seen in the earlier school districts. So for us now, particularly when families may very well be armed with their own devices, so there is no implication in that regard, I would hope that we would still be willing to be the principal. Here might be the opportunity or that occasion where if principals are equipped to make those changes, that they be permitted to do so, particularly if they are communicating with the parents who are making that choice, hereby one, not guaranteeing devices for those who would make that choice, and for those who are armed with devices, that they could make that choice most readily. And I just think that we ought to be able to give that type of flexibility, if possible. And again, you know more about the day-to-day than I do, but I do know that if principals are armed with that option, where possible, they will give parents that option. And I think parent fears and concerns should be still counted up until the first day of school, if humanly possible.
You going to speak to this now?
What's
You
that?
going to talk about this now, or do you?
It sounds like we're talking about it, so yeah, let's talk about it.
Go for it. Go ahead, Ms.
I, Superintendent will tell you, have been very upset about this, but I do understand what you're saying. I understand that I know you were schlepping computers this weekend because I saw pictures of it. So y'all have been busting it to try to make this work in a very unfortunate situation with the devices not coming in. So I completely appreciate how one more change just seems gargantuan, and undoable. At the same time, with that whole, the school district, and particularly under your leadership, has been so great about compassion, flexibility, and grace. And I think we just need to keep saying that over and over. And so that if there's anybody in the next week, any parent that says, you know what, I've just wrestled with this, because a lot of people have been wrestling with it all summer, like, do I make my kid wants to go back? What do I decide? And they may just now be coming to that final decision. And I think they thought they had that flexibility, that we allow that, but we say, listen, you may not have the schedule you think you have. We can't provide you a laptop, but we'll excuse your absence until we get you a schedule. Because I understand what you told me is that, we can't just way overcrowd the digital classes. Some of them are all digital, and there's a lot of scheduling implications with this. But I think if we don't make too many promises, and we say, we're going to respect your desire not to come back to brick and mortar, but you need to understand that
That's fair.
we're not making any promises about devices or your schedule until the end of the first week of school.
That's fair. Yeah, I think that's fair. And because, this has been hard. Look, it's been hard for all of us. I just want to get to Monday.
Yeah.
Monday can't get here fast enough. But to your point, and talking with principals, they're keeping lists of those kids that are calling and doing basically just what you said. Because the other thing I proposed in the hybrid model that you threw a wet blanket on was
that was brilliant from a scheduling point of view. I have to give you props on that.
But it allowed for that, because now when you separate them, you got the digital academy classes that are significantly big. They're a lot higher, and I'm sure you're going to hear some people speak to that maybe in just a minute. But those classes are higher. So, but to your point, I think what you said works. Look, we hear you. We're going to make those adjustments and accommodations, but just know that these are some of the things we may have to wrestle with during the first week to get you set up.
Or two.
And they can be in study hall
Right.
and be learning how to use the digital
Right. Okay.
platform.
Yeah.
May I ask now, how will that relate to the number of absences? Will that interfere with the grades? I like the idea, and I think that the grace, compassion, and flexibility is certainly the way we should continue.
We'll make it work out.
Grades won't be all right.
We'll make it work out. We're in a really thin margin with devices, and put so much work into that. And look, I didn't want to send desktops home. you know how hard those things are to we've been doing for the last.
We talked about
put
that.
800 together this weekend, and
Yeah, we saw you, and that was hard.
so, and I don't want to have to parents to have to take desktops home, but the only way we could make the math work and to keep those kids, those brick and mortar kids, where if they do have to quarantine, they just take this and they go home for 2 weeks and then they're in their class, and then they bring this and then they're right back. It was the only way to make it work. But to your point, yes, I think we can, as if parents come, if the mayor at the last minute decides, you know, I'm not going to Gilchrist and Raw face to face, Mr. Hanna, we want to distance learn, then we'll say, okay, then let's figure it out. Give us some time over the course of the first couple of days of school and work on a schedule and work on a device.
I think that's
Madam Chair.
a really good compromise.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for hearing that. Mr. Jones.
Mr. Superintendent, I know we have referenced the deployment plan. Would you like to provide any more specifics relative to what that deployment plan looks like?
It looks like a Rubik's Cube, and there's 2 Rubik's Cubes that Justin Williamson had to, you know, with all the different colors, and the guy that has to try to figure it out. One was for the DA kids. There's an entire plan by school. So X number of computers have to go from Roberts Elementary School to Raw Middle School. X number of computers have to go from Fairview has a large number of mobile devices, from Fairview Middle School to Buck Lake Elementary School. I mean, so it's all of the logistics of first the desktops going from school to school, and the 800 we built out here, delivering into the schools to go out to parents to get them set up over the weekend for the first day of school. And then after that's done, all the mobile devices going, not as much between schools, but the mobile devices we have out here going to supplement at all the schools to ensure that all of our students, K-8, don't have to BYOD, and then our 6 high schools are doing BYOD. If they have a device, they'll bring it. If not, then we'll have a device for them. And that leaves us a cushion of about 400 to 500 devices to have for emergencies, and about a cushion of, I think, about 200 desktops. And every school, though, will still have 30 to 40 desktops and 15 to 20 mobile devices for situations where something's not working or we have to do a replacement. But it's a lot of moving parts.
So can you clarify for our public, all of our schools have a combination of desktops and laptops for distribution?
Yes. And the reason we sent the desktops home was because we knew those kids were going to be home for at least 9 weeks. So we knew those kids would be in a fixed location. The brick and mortar kids, we weren't sure about. One, about their quarantining. 2, if we shut a whole entire class down, you know, that the class has to go home, or, you know, heaven forbid we shut a school down, then, you know, all the kids that are physically in the school can take the mobile device home, and then when we reopen the class or reopen the school, they can bring the device back.
Okay, so that we're clear, because what I'd like, and the reason I ask this question, there is a great deal of conjecture and rumor about how the devices, whichever they are, desktops and compared to laptops, are being distributed across the district.
They did ask.
And I'm hearing this, and I want to clarify for our public that those children who have opted for the Digital Academy will more than likely be offered a desktop, because that instrument will remain stationary.
Except for 4 schools, okay? There's 4 schools that had an abundant supply of mobile devices. And so those 4 schools will 100% have mobile devices. And those 4 schools are Roberts Elementary, Godby High School, DeSoto Trail, and Fairview Middle School. So 2 Title I schools are 100% mobile because they had devices, and 2 non-Title I schools are 100% mobile. Okay. Other than those 4 schools, all the DA kids at all of at the other 36 schools, the DA kids will be desktops. The brick and mortar kids will be mobile devices.
And they have those mobile devices for in case that they should have to return home that they'll be able to take that instrument with them, and then when they return back to brick and mortar, they'll still have that same instrument. That will be the repository of all their classwork, their assignments, and the like.
Everything. And one of the concerns, especially with elementary, was the teacher would not be able to see the students in their class. So we purchased 8,000 webcams. So every device that goes home, they'll have a webcam, and they'll also have a wireless adapter. It's called a dongle.
Thank you for doing that.
So every desktop that went home has a camera, so the kids can be seen by their teacher, because that was a concern.
Yeah.
And they'll also have a wireless adapter, so they won't have to run a cable from wherever their modem is into the device.
Hey, Madam Chair, a possibly related
Thank you for
question.
clarifying. Thank you. I appreciate that.
A possible related question. Is there a team that will assist if there is a problem in
Great question.
devices?
Great question. So we talked to Bill Nimmons. We're going to prop up a help desk. We're staffed by 5 members of IT staff that will begin this weekend. We'll run through all weekend long, and it's going to run from, I'm going to say the exact hour, around 7 to 7, starting on Saturday. So as parents are starting to set these things up and they're having problems, I don't understand, where does this plug? This plug's in where?
Absolutely.
So that will run for at least the first 9 days. So it'll run this weekend, all of next week, and then the following weekend. We'll see where we are. And there won't be just one person. There'll be there'll be a team there to field phone calls from parents who are having difficulty getting their devices set up and ready to go for Monday.
And are you able at this moment to say the number of changes that have been made from brick and mortar to the at-home learning digital device?
So we're still probably 48% brick and mortar, 51, 52, 53% digital academy. The numbers have grown, I guess, over the last several weeks, as you've seen, of the number, students that are leaving for the digital academy, but not in mass numbers. I think most parents have made up their mind. Most families have made up their mind which one they prefer. But guys, unfortunately, there's several thousand we haven't heard from. I mean, when you talk about 33,000 students, there's probably 2,000 that we haven't heard from, and we know they're going to show up the first day. We're going to meet them with flexibility, compassion, and grace, and hand them a ticket to find out, what is your preference, and then to work on the schedule, work on the devices.
Wow.
But that's like that every year, and especially with kindergarten kids. We know there's another kindergarten kids that they just show up the first day of school, and we make it work. I do need to go back to one thing, because of the device situation will be again, the goal is for K8 they will not have to be BYOD. We may be a little short of devices just at the beginning of the year for kindergarten classes, but we don't anticipate the kindergarten classes the first day of school getting on a laptop. So, but we will, as quickly as possible, ensure that all of those kindergarten kids have the devices that they need in case they have to retreat home.
Question. Ms. Wood, are you physically delivering these computers, or are people picking them up at the schools?
No, the DA kids, their parents are coming to get them at the schools, and then for the brick and mortar students, they'll be there for the first day.
When the Chromebooks come, are they swapping them?
Yeah.
turning them in?
And I just get me to Monday.
Okay. Well, we don't need to know that right now.
Yeah. Yes, and we'll figure out when the best time to make that happen is.
But they're not gifts; they're loans, right?
Yeah, they're not gifts. It's still our it's still our property, and parents are like they did in the spring. We'll sign, to protect our property, not to damage the property, and.
Are we still recommending or offering insurance for that purpose?
We haven't discussed that. We're still working on that with the Chromebooks when they come in to offer the insurance and things like that. And but we're treating it basically like we do our textbook. They just need to respect our property.
Madam Chair, Mr. Superintendent, I know you just mentioned this last week, but inquiring minds want to know: have we had any word on when the Chromebooks might come this year at some point in time.
You
Just
know,
asking for a friend.
His crystal ball just
Not-
fogged up.
it went, it went blank. I mean, look, we know they're not going to be here for the first day of school, Miss
Yeah,
Bowen.
we know.
I think we are probably anticipating the end of September, first part of October.
Okay. I was thinking.
You know, if that happens, we'll kind of see how the semester's going. Maybe we just, you know, stay the course through the end of the semester and then switch out at the break. But right now, I just want to get to Monday.
I know. We with you. All right. Thank you.
Are we ready to move on, or you have more on this topic?
I do not, and so do not.
I do not, and so.
So why don't y'all have some questions and they can kind of guide, because I don't want to just go on and on and on about things that we've talked about every week for the last.
I'm
6
still
weeks.
concerned about. Have we done a cost analysis of the preferred air filters that I know Florida High has put those in place along with the fogging machines?
So we I reported on this before. We have upgraded our filters to MERV 11s.
We have. Okay.
Yeah, so we're upgrading we made that purchase a while back, and they'll be going around and changing out all the filters. We're also doing that ionization in all of our schools, in the cafeterias and in the office, in the clinics. I saw where y'all seen the little portable air purifiers,
Yeah.
right? I mean, they only cover like 350 square feet. Our classrooms are 3 times that size.
Right.
They don't capture the micro level small enough for COVID. It's like 0.03, and so they look and sound good, but they really have no health benefit. But any place we see we can gain, that we're going to take advantage of that. But we have already made the commitment to the filters and to the ionizations in the cafeterias and in the clinics.
What about the fogging machines that they're using at FSU, Florida High?
We haven't committed that.
Isn't there FEMA money, Mr. Hunkyar, that we can potentially tap into for things like that? 75% reimbursement through FEMA. So will you just put that on your list?
Yeah.
I think, and one other quick question. A couple weeks ago, we've heard, I really appreciate it. I had this one teacher who reached out, and I connected her with Jillian. She was concerned about the inability to share textbooks, but she had a solution, which was tapping into a free resource through, I think it was Library of Congress, I'm not sure. Anyway, that was resolved, but it seems like an ongoing issue might be the sharing of supplies, like for art. I don't know about musical instruments. I know Ra had done a shout out, by the way, if anybody's listening, if anybody has any extra musical instruments around the house that they don't need, Ra Middle School would love to have them. But what about, have we convened all of our art teachers to try to come up with some solutions? Are we convening those subgroups?
I don't want to speak to the art teacher situation, but I can check on that. Our principals still have flex budgets that go to buy things like art supplies and copy paper, toner, things like that. I mean, we can certainly get the art teachers if we need to look at that. If we can look at it, but we also know we don't have a whole lot of kids in art class right now. I mean, a lot of kids are at home. So there won't be as great a need, but yeah, we can certainly have those conversations.
Well, and I used art, but it could be chemistry. I mean, just sharing utensils and things like that. Although I think we're learning more and more about sanitizing, and it's more of a aerosol. So.
But supplies is a good point, because our DA kids, if they're taking art from home, they need a set of supplies. So I just hope that conversation's going on at the school level.
If I might, this
Striplin?
is not a question. This is a shout out to what an amazing. This was something I asked for, probably a month ago. I saw some other district sites, and they were just so well done and disseminated the information so easily, and it was pretty and easy to navigate. And ours is amazing. So if Denver, if you could put it up on the screen, I don't know, or on the kind of flash to the Safe Start so people know where to look.
It's excellent.
It is the tab. goes right across the top of our Leon County Schools webpage, along with About Us. We've gone this every day. I hit this LCS employees and go to the website for my email more times than I care to think about every week. But that Safe Start, and then you scroll down through there and you can click on whatever. I have a question about buses, so I'm going to click on transportation.
Mm-hmm.
And there is that great logo. I mean, I know Jillian was the start of all this information. I know Heather Thomas joined in on it. Denver, I'm sure you had something to do with it. I don't know if Chris Bedley had something to do with it. Whoever is the brainchild behind this, I just cannot be happier. Marketing is a big deal to me, and what our message looks like is so important, and this looks incredible. Mm-hmm. So, oh my gosh, thank you to everybody.
Dr. Gale, Heather Thomas, Chris Petley, Scott Whittle. I mean, there was a whole team of people involved. We
need to have them up here and have a photo, like a socially distanced photo one day with the Safe Start logo in the background. I mean, even the logo. Who did the logo? It's great.
Madam Chair, yesterday, Ms. Strickland, I received a call from some of our school board members down in Alachua County, just taking a look at who won and who didn't. And they said to me, there were two of them talking on the phone at the time, you all are really doing it up there in Leon County. And I go, well, what do you mean? This is their word. Your website, that page, we're taking a look at it.
Love it.
So I'll have to tell
Love it, because we did the same thing.
Great.
We grabbed
That's
it from somewhere else. I'm like, this one looks great, and ours looks looks incredible. So thank you guys.
Great.
Oh, really amazing.
All right. We've got people who are waiting to be heard. Are we ready to?
Yes.
I'm ready. If y'all are ready,
Where are we?
I feel good.
Okay.
Me too.
Madam Chair Williams.
We ended on a positive note there. The Reopen Schools Task Force.
Good to be back together again.
That's right.
Isn't it?
That's right.
Yeah.
We all came back together.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Under persons to be heard, there are 9 emails that were sent to the persons to be heard at leonschools.net email address. Those emails have been sent to all board members and will be attached to the minutes to this meeting. In addition, there are 7 speakers here to speak. We will start with Kim Stralo. If you can please come, give us your full name and address for the record. You'll have 3 minutes.
My name is Kim Stralo, 206 Fairway Drive. Thank you, Madam Chair, school board members, and Superintendent Hannah. I am here to tell you that teachers don't feel safe. We don't have all the supplies you say or have said that we would have already. We still don't have clear understanding of the policies and procedures, and some of our schools are not following the policies and procedures that are in place. We were told about the going to work being asymptomatic yesterday, and it's not clear. We're frustrated. Parents don't know that we are going to be at work, standing there in front of their children during a mask break, being asymptomatic. Parents also don't know that they have been denied the decision to switch from brick and mortar to Digital Academy. Basically, we don't feel valued. We feel as though we are being sacrificed to put an agenda out there to be babysitters, childcare, whatever. We would like for you guys to start really hearing us. Come to the schools. Look. See that every teacher has their supplies. Check it out. We invite you. You say you're going to come on Monday. We want you to come, each and every one of you, come and check it out. Look at our schools. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Scott Mazer. Please come to the podium after it's been cleaned. Give us your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Scott Mazer, 3319 Dartmoor Drive. First of all, board, superintendent, I want to thank you for a lot of your questions tonight and for some of the things that you brought up, because they were things that have been weighing on the hearts and minds of a lot of teachers in the classrooms, as well as parents that have reached out to schools, because I do know of a parent that did reach out to a middle school and was told about the asymptomatic stuff about essential workers. So I'm not sure where the communication was, either from Dr. Cox or if there was a meeting with administrators, but somewhere along the lines, that communication piece that we keep talking about it keeps breaking down. And some information's here, it changes as it goes over here. We suggested back in May, whatever the message was, copy and paste it to the letterhead of a school. Send it out. That's the message, Leon County Schools. No ambiguity. Everybody gets the same information. I think that's something that we need to start looking at. Additionally, the whole brick and mortar choice, a lot of people chose it because they could get out of it. So I appreciate the fact that you brought that up tonight and that there's a conversation taking place. Teachers are stressed. Friday last week, people were burnt out. They did a lot of Canvas, and there's a lot of people that know Canvas but don't still have all the content on Canvas. And they're nervous about what Monday looks like. They don't even know if another week would be enough to be prepared for what Monday looks like. So all that grace, flexibility, and compassion that keeps being asked of them, because more gets asked of them. Because right now, they were worried about COVID. Now they're just worried about when can I use the bathroom and eat lunch. Like there's just that much more being put on their plates. So instead of being asked about it, they want to know when they're going to get it. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Kendall Boche. Boche, B-O-C-H-E. Kendall, is there a Kendall?
Bodner.
No, Jill Bodner? Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe that is Bodner and I just can't. I'm so sorry. Forgive me. Yes, please come and say your name how it's supposed to be said.
Okay.
Instead of how I said it, your address, and then you'll have 3 minutes.
My name's Kendall Bodner. My address is 1952 Charlotte Street. So, hello, ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is Kendall. I am a junior at Lincoln High School and the president of our school's STEAM and Robotics Club. It's a lot to explain in just 3 minutes, which is why I handed out the packets to you. But essentially, I've reached out to my principal multiple times in the span of 2 weeks and received absolutely zero response. The only response I did receive regarding selling masks on campus as a fundraiser for our club was that I cannot because it's a liability. The notion that I cannot sell these masks because they are a liability of any sort is absolutely unfounded and false. The H600 masks you are offering, though, do pose a significant risk to the health and safety of students and staff. These masks were created at the University of Florida, who themselves have said they are not FDA approved nor certified as N95s because there has been no testing conducted on their safety or breathability. However, following the explosion of these masks in healthcare, the Elsevier Public Health Emergency Collection published a study which found that the Hollyard 600 masks do not live up to the standards of the NIOSH, who tests N95 masks. They also found that aside from being extremely penetrable, both singly and doubly layered, that they do not reach the current standards for resistance across the filtration membrane, meaning that they retain excessive amounts of exhaled CO2 within the mask and are extremely difficult to breathe. O&M H. Hollyard themselves says that they cannot condone the use of their product off use, nor can they confirm their safety for use as masks. Furthermore, if the evidence I have presented prior was not damning enough, the WHO released new guidance on private masks, which states a mask should be made with a minimum of 3 layers, a cotton layer in the front and in the back, and a polypropylene layer in the center. The masks I've created, however, are up to the guidance of the WHO with 4 layers, a cotton layer in the front and the back, a polypropylene filthy mask-making fabric layer in the center, and a cotton ripstop layer for added protection. They were also tested by mask-making company TSI and found to have a filtration efficacy of 84%, with other studies I did not include in your packet, unfortunately, with a margin of error all the way up to 94%. To say my masks are of any more liability than these H600 masks is simply untrue. The only difference between what I've created here and these other masks is that I am a child and these were made by adults. Non-stop, my school has preached to me about using my voice and making a difference, yet every time I've tried to stand up and do that very thing, I have been shot down or ignored because I'm young, and I'm not the only one. It's been a non-stop uphill battle to get my club off the ground, and every single chance I've made, it has just been a non-stop turn of new things I have to do. I am sick and tired of being told no by the same people who love to tell me about what a horrible country I live in, how bad the establishment is, and how us kids need to be the generation to clean up everyone else's mess. Well, here I am, and here's the evidence, and I challenge you to do something with it, because on my own, my voice means nothing.
Thank you for your comment. The next speaker after the podium
hang
has
on
been...
just a second. Sorry. we don't normally speak during this time, but have you been to Shark Tank yet? Because I'm just thinking. I mean, really, look at this. This could, I haven't read the whole thing, but it looks more like a PhD dissertation than a term paper for a high school student. And I appreciate your passion and your tenacity and your research and your evidence and the ability to succinctly present all of that information in such a short amount of time. And I suspect that you've gotten, you got my attention, probably that of more here. And so I don't want to just let you think that we didn't hear you. And I commend you for using your voice. I'm sorry that it had to reach a level of frustration for you. But that'll serve you well in the long run because this won't be the first time. The last time, excuse me. Mr. Superintendent?
If I may add, and Kendall, I did respond to your email, and I guess Ms. Rochelle speaks very highly of you and your family, and you're a very bright young lady, and I felt your frustration, and I think we can do something about it. Okay, so stay positive. Yes. All right, keep doing what you're doing. Continue to advocate for yourself. I know Miss Rochelle, I believe we're going to have masks. Did you make masks for all the staff members at Swift Creek?
Yeah, Swift Creek and Buck Lake so far.
Yeah, you're an amazing young woman.
And thank you.
That
thank
came
you
out. Yes. So do not give up. Stay positive, and something good will come out of this. I promise.
May I just say very quickly, Madam Chair, Kendall, I appreciate your courage and I appreciate your work. So keep that fire going. I expect that we're going to be hearing many other things from you somewhere in the world. May I ask, are you a senior at Lincoln?
No, I'm a junior.
Oh my goodness, that's wonderful.
Right.
Keep it up. That's wonderful.
Did y'all see? It's even adjustable. I've never
I
seen
know,
I've
trying to
never
see
seen
this.
Adjustable.
that adjusts for the size of people's faces. That's incredible.
This is wonderful. Thank you.
Wait, ma'am,
Oh,
you'll have an opportunity to speak in just 1 second.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Any
being
other
here. Thank
comments from board members?
No.
Okay, our next speaker is Mom, Ms. Gardner.
you. Oh, okay.
You would please come to the podium, give us your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Jill Bodner, 1952 Charlotte Street. That's my baby. I'm here to talk to you about fundraising for her STEAM club and robotics club at Lincoln.
Good for you.
The club is new. It's only been in existence since last year, and they've been shut down on every single occasion that they've asked to fundraise. Even something simple as can they sell warm apple cider in cold months before school starts was said to be no because it was competition with the cafeteria. And there's been other things like that. So now she has mentioned very succinctly regarding the mask and told that those were a liability when they're in compliance with CDC guidelines and every other thing that she mentioned up here. Other groups, however, on the issue of liability have been able to sell things such as homemade food, which in and itself could be a personal liability, as I think you imagine, based on ingredients that are in it or the ways that they're cooked or whatever. So it seems to me that things are, at least at the Lincoln level, that they're arbitrary as to what's permitted and what's not permitted, and it makes it very difficult for a club to function. What happened to Kendall was that she funded the club herself last year. She spent somewhere in the neighborhood of $400 to $500 of her own dollars whenever she got them to buy things, to make robots, to do surgical masks or surgical suturing and stuff like that. She did all of that out of her desire to bring STEAM clubs to her school. And where did she get that? She got it from Buck Lake. She got it from Swift Creek that have robust science programs and STEM programs. And not only do they have the programs and the classes, but they compete and they place at the local level and the state level. But then they've created this pipeline of kids that once they get to Lincoln, there's absolutely no expression for that. There's not the classes. There's not STEM classes. Her club is literally the only thing that there is at the school. I, as a parent, used to see a lot of these same faces at competitions and so forth, but I don't see them anymore. Kendall is a dying breed. She is the only kid in her school who participated in science fair last year. She was one of 2 that participated the year before. Both times she made it to state, never got mentioned at the school. But if they win a sports competition, it's all over the website and other things. So I asked Kendall, what happened? Why do all of these same kids who are in your club and so forth not participate? And she said it's because these things are not publicized at the school. And that it gives the message that it's not important at the school. And they don't do it. But we know that it's important. Why? Because STEM is a growing area of career development. Furthermore, being in clubs, participating in competitions, all of those things are important to college acceptance and college readiness and all of these things. So I submit that Kendall should be able to sell her masks, and her club should be able to participate in all of the normal things that other clubs are allowed to do in selling food and so forth, so that they can raise money not only to participate in things now when COVID lifts and there are competitions again.
Time. Thank you for your comment. The next speaker is Shari Gawanter. Please give us your name and address once the podium is cleaned, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Kendall, you have a ready-made research project already done for the school year.
Dissertation.
Awesome.
Good evening. My name is Shari Gawanter, and I live Pontiac Drive, Tallahassee, Florida. I have been teaching for 22 years, 16 here in Tallahassee, all of them elementary Title I schools. I'm going to start with a quick self-check. My temperature is good for now. I am healthy for now, but I am also exhausted, stressed, anxious, worried, and excited to teach. I've been working in my classroom since the first day of this month. My classroom looks great. My Canvas has a very pretty homepage. So much training in the last 2 weeks, my brain is completely overwhelmed, and I hope it's enough to keep my students, my peers, my family, myself, all safe, and I can teach the children well. We could all use an extra week with all the information and training. Wow, Monday feels way too close with all I still have to accomplish in the days ahead. With the new ruling, you now have the power to make more meaningful decisions, especially in the light of the loss of 3 beloved Fort Braden staff. My condolences go out to them all and the families. Now you have some options for change. If not now, the consequences may be even greater than I can imagine. And who will be responsible for that? 3 deaths, I think I heard 15 positive cases to date, and we aren't fully back in yet. Sickness and death, quarantines will be very disruptive indeed. So many mandates to this point forced you to make some very hard decisions. And now you have some more powerful opportunities to make some different decisions. I say science over safety, science and safety, over funding. And I say people over data, and let common sense be our guide. Thank you for all the hard work that you have done to get us to this point. We still have a way to go and a lot of work to do still as we rush to this August 31st. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight.
Thank you for your comment. The next speaker is Shelby Shoop. Please come to the podium after it's been cleaned. Give us your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Shelby Shoop. I live at 322 Osley Road. I'm a graduate student in the FSU College of Education, and I'm here today pleading with you to make the only safe decision regarding school reopenings, which is to move to a 100% virtual first 9 weeks. It's frankly humiliating to have to come before you as for weeks you've ignored the pleas of teachers and staff and lied by saying they are across the board excited to return to brick and mortar. All of my friends who have gone back in the last week have done so in a panic. They have told me about how they can only manage 3 feet between their desks, how there are no paper towels in the break rooms, and how they are prepping for upwards of 20 to 30 students in most of our high schools in their brick and mortar classes. We're simply not ready to reopen, and it will be disastrous. You know of multiple COVID-19 cases already this summer tied to LCS, and we have already lost 3 members of our family to this virus. This is not rhetorical. This is a real life or death situation. Jordan Bird, Jackie Bird, and Karen Bradwell are real people who were part of the Fort Braden community who died. If you reopen schools, you do so knowing that blood will be on your hands when the next worker or student dies from coronavirus, and you will have to live with that knowledge for the rest of your lives. Yes, moving to 100% virtual will have its challenges. Some families will have to scramble to figure out childcare, but we can figure that out as a community. The health and lives of our workers and students must be non-negotiable. Everything else we can figure out afterwards. We can make up learning deficits, but we cannot replace a life. We cannot replace Jordan, Jackie, or Karen. We cannot replace any of our students. If it was your child's life at risk, wouldn't you do everything in your power to protect them? And isn't it the fact that everyone is someone's child enough? Yesterday, Judge Dodson ruled in the union's favor, meaning that we no longer have to worry about the state revoking local funding if we move to 100% virtual. There are no more excuses. Your hands are not tied. You have the power to make the right call. It's time to abandon the misleadership and truly step up for our community. If you move to 100% virtual, you will be heroes for good reason. And if not, you will knowingly spread disease among our children and our workers, and it will be unforgivable. Please choose wisely and choose accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. And the last speaker, Madam Chair, is Matthew DeMarco. Please come to the podium after it's been cleaned. Give us your name and address, and you will have 3 minutes.
I'm Matthew DeMarco from Tallahassee, Florida. I wanted to address a couple things.
Mr. DeMarco, if you could speak into the podium so that we make sure we hear you.
Yes, I can. My name is Matthew DeMarco.
You can actually pull it up to you since you're taller. That may help. Just pull it up.
So I get to restart my 3 minutes.
We certainly
now.
can. Go ahead, start.
So I wanted to address two things. One, directly with the email exchange I had with the board attorney regarding the extension and modification of the emergency meeting to the emergency order to meet virtually. In that email, she cites Executive Order 2069. I just wanted to read my response. There's no language in EO 2069 that requires the board to meet virtually. It only provides the legal flexibility to do so, whereas it is necessary and appropriate to take action to ensure that COVID-19 remains controlled and that residents and visitors in Florida remain safe and secure. In extending and adopting a non-emergency revision of Policy 172, Superintendent Hannah and Leon County School Board are sending a very mixed message to the community. We now have an abundance of evidence that reopening will result in increased COVID cases in the community. Regarding the order, the DOE order and the ruling, the judge states very clearly that the mandate takes no consideration on local spread, local test, local results. It's just wholesale. It takes no mention or consideration of community transmission rates, varying age of students, or proper precautions. It has been clearly established there is no easy decision, and opening schools will most likely increase COVID-19 cases in Florida. Plaintiffs have demonstrated a substantial likelihood of success in procuring a judgment declaring the order is being applied arbitrarily across Florida. Defendant's witness testified Commissioner Corcoran entered the order because school districts and school superintendents were asking for guidance regarding how state funding and the October survey would work if parents and students chose in large numbers to to continue distance learning in the fall semester. So thank you, Superintendent Hannah, for that. Regardless of the final outcome of the position of the ruling, the judge says, interestingly, this hearing was done remotely
Mr. DeMarco,
via
your
Zoom.
time is up.
That is
Thank you
because
for your
it has
comments.
been decided it's unsafe to hold in-person trials in the Leon County Courthouse
Mr. DeMarco, your time is up.
during a dangerous pandemic. That was a local decision based on local conditions.
Madam Chair, that concludes public comment.
Thank you.
We're at item 7, I think. Yes. Item consent, Madam Chair, I think.
I move consent.
Thank you. Motion by Mr. Jones. Is there a second for the second by Ms. Bowen? Any opposition? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Show it unanimously approved. That takes us to item 18 for consent on construction.
I move consent.
Moved by Mr. Jones, second by Ms. Striplin. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Show it unanimously approved. Items for consideration.
I move, oh no, I'm sorry. I was on a roll.
We're rolling with
Roll right along, sir.
roll.
Should we roll right past 2201?
Yeah. Oh, no, never that.
That's 23. I'm getting to you. Mr. Superintendent, were you under 2201? Anything further?
We're close. Stay. Good meeting tonight.
Okay.
Really good meeting tonight.
All right.
Stay
Ms. Wood.
positive.
Okay, so I think you all received the proposal in your email last week after our meeting, and we didn't have a workshop, so we weren't able to talk about it yesterday, which is fine because we're trying to get school started, and I understand that. But I'd like you to read over the proposal, and the important aspects of this to me are we need to be, even though we're planning for now, we need to be planning ahead. And we know that it's possible that we will have some school closures. And I would really like to see us come up with a policy of if we have limited capacity to take care of our students who are the most vulnerable, the children of essential workers, that we have a priority system in place to say we have, if we come to this point and say we have room for this many kids, who gets those spots? And that's going to take a lot of thinking, and some good thinking was done in this paper. If you haven't had a chance to read it, I recommend it. And so that's one thing. And another thing that's a lot of focus in this paper is how do we help create learning hubs in our community, and how do we reach out to our community members in organizations and churches to coordinate them helping to provide some support. And so, Superintendent, what I would like is if you would just appoint someone on your staff to start looking at this seriously, and then maybe in a couple of weeks, we could come back and have a workshop about it. Mm-hmm. Would that be okay? I'm joking, so
Right.
I'm okay.
Right?
Yep, I'm fine.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Jones.
I want to thank School Board Member Woods for bringing this. I think this is going to be I think, one of the things that, and I know I speak for us all, at how amazed we have been and what has been our community's response on behalf of our children. And I think that oftentimes we have not because we ask not in certain situations. And I do believe that our community, particularly once our schools are reopened, would readily jump at the chance to be engaged in ways that and we're the experts in this, so we would be the ones who would do the heavy lifting and making certain that we don't put our children or those partners in litigious situations, true enough. But I do believe that there's enough goodwill where people want to be able to say they've done something to help to continue, as I like to say oftentimes, move the needle towards academic achievement. And this is going to go a long, long way. We can't, and our community has shown us that their expectations are not that we do it all, that they've come in the gap with both both time, talent, and treasures. And here we have a plan that kind of provides us some guidance by which we can make some additional worthwhile services that are not reactive, but instead are proactive. And I think this is something worthwhile. And I want to thank School Board Member Woods for sharing it with us. I want to thank the superintendent for now taking the ball and running with it. And I look forward to what we'll ultimately discover will be opportunities that we can possibly make possible with partners across our community.
Right. I think we can be the clearinghouse, and so people can know, okay, well, I want to help. Here's something I can do. And so it's going to take some effort and someone to really pay attention to this, but it's critical even now, because when we look at our numbers of who's chosen brick and mortar and who's chosen digital, we have mostly our Title I schools who are the predominant ones who have chosen digital. And so we know that there is great support needed in addition to just having a computer, talking to a teacher over school. So I think it's up to us to create the infrastructure and then let the community come in and help us. So I want to really take this seriously. And
it's a grave concern of mine. I mean, I talked to y'all about the 2,000 students that we haven't heard from yet. I mean,
right.
And we know there are a number of those children in those schools that they're going to need some support. Yeah. And I'm struggling, really struggling with that. We're trying to assign, the coaches at these schools, the reading coach, the math coach, the data coach, to try to, to help troubleshoot. But we need more than that. It's going to be interesting to see how all this plays out. There's a lot of things to consider, and this is certainly one of them.
Okay. Well, I look forward to our discussion. Let's get school started. But I think this is something we can take a hold of and really make a difference for our community.
Right. Madam Chair?
Ms. Bowen?
Thank you. Ms. Woods, I thank you too. I read over this, peruse it quickly, but I think that this is a good first step, and I think it's going to be a very heavy lift when I look at what needs to happen here, understanding what I think I understand about this. I look forward to the workshop and how we might hear more information about what can be done. So, and you're absolutely right. Those students, we want to leave no student behind, even if the school doors are closed, as they may be in a few weeks. And so I look forward to what we can do, and the superintendent staff taking a look at how we might implement portions of this and continue with the education of our children.
Okay, thank you.
May I say one more thing? And I know the time is getting late, but I just want to use this as an example of what you're talking about. In District 3 at Pineview Elementary School, with Carmen Connor is our principal. She has a wonderful collaborative relationship with the Jacob Chapel Baptist Church and the Delta Kappa Omega Alpha Kappa Alpha Center. And what they do is they work in tandem. We're not able to provide Leon County school transportation for the children to go to the after-school program that's made available at the Delta Kappa Omega Alpha Kappa Alpha Center there in the Providence community. So it is the Jacob Chapel Baptist Church that uses its vans that ordinarily are reserved for Sunday, and instead they devote church members whose job it is to make frequent trips back and forth to the school so that the kids can still be able to be involved in cognitive activities for the rest of the evening until their parents come and pick them up. Mm-hmm. This is what we're talking about modeling. And again, it's when there's that type of engagement between the community. Here now that school day is lengthened by another 3 or 4 hours because of Jacob Chapel Baptist Church, and then the ladies of Alpha Kappa Alpha, who then have tutors and other volunteers who come in and provide that additional. That is ideal. So imagine if we had that occurring at all of our schools. And I think this is a plan of engagement that we could describe that. And it's not that we're not already doing it. I have to call her name. Kelly Lister Walker is just a fantastic ombudsman on behalf of this district and helps to make these types of things occur most often, right? And I just think that we've got it. We need the community to know that we need it now more than ever.
All right. Are all minds clear?
Can I? Okay. Now, is this for new concerns? Okay. I promise this is my last thing. I'd be remiss if I did not today say happy birthday to Miss Carrie Lamar Anderson, the principal of the W.T. Moore Elementary School. She has been family to me ever since she was a little girl, and I was her vacation Bible school teacher. And I just think she is just a remarkable administrator in our district, and I want her to know that Mr. Darrell says, happy birthday, Carrie Lamar Anderson. I love you, and I love the W.T. Moore Mustangs.
Happy birthday.
That's my district. You
I
cannot
know,
have that. You
I
cannot
know.
have that school.
I won't take the school, but I love everybody.
Shout out to District 1.
Shout out to District 1. And shout out to Carrie Lamar Anderson. I love you.
After dinner.
Jones, move we rise.
Yes. Now, everybody, I got a gift for you.